Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. Steven here with Team Euphoric, and this is day 9 of the 80 Days to Your Dream Body course. Today's protein source is going to be elk ribeye steak, and today is going to be a shoulders and arms training routine. And right now, I'm going to be taking you through the full stretching routine that you're going to perform after you finish training shoulders and arms. Let's get started. This brings us to the stretching routine. For the stretching routine, I've got 3 stretches for you guys. We've got one for the anterior deltoid, one for the biceps brachii, one for the triceps brachii. For the first stretch for the anterior deltoid, this is going to be a myofascial stretching exercise. And for it, we are going to be in a kneeling position. So I'm just going to get on these nice comfy crash pads that I have over here. And what we want to do is this is going to be a tall kneeling position. So we want to be elevated. What we want to do to create as much maximum myofascial tension on the anterior aspect of the humerus, what we would do is go into anteversion of the pelvis. When we go into anteversion of the pelvis, what's going to happen is the pubic symphysis is going to move inferiorly, and the rectus abdominis attaches to the pubic symphysis. So now the rectus abdominis is under tension, the pectoralis major, it connects directly into the abdominal cavity. So now we have extra tension on the pectoralis major, and that's going to transfer right into the glenohumeral joint. So what we would do for this one right over here is we want to keep the chin tucked in, crown of the head up, eyes looking down to put the floor to put the dura mater under tension. And then because the anterior deltoid is responsible for flexion, medial rotation, and abduction, we want to reverse engineer that. We're going to go into extension, lateral rotation, and we're going to take the arm behind us to induce adduction by driving it across. Another thing that we want to do is to get as much myofascial tension as possible, we want to get a nice pre-stretch by going into retraction and depression of the scapula. So you're squeezing your shoulder blades together and you're moving them down toward your butt. And then to get a little bit of an extra stretch, what we would do is we would do lateral flexion, contralateral flexion of the cervical spine by looking away. And then we would do ipsilateral rotation by looking toward the side that we are stretching. But we've got 30 seconds. We are going to start right now. With this stretch right over here, it is an active stretch. So you are actively trying to squeeze your shoulder blades together the entire time. You are actively trying to laterally rotate the humerus, and you are actively trying to go into as much extension as possible. The other thing too with this stretch, to make it more enhanced, is you can go into antipulsion of the femur, or sorry, retropulsion of the femur. And relax. Retropulsion of the femur, that is when our arm is behind us and we are pushing our palm down toward the floor. So imagine that somebody is yanking on your arm, but we're going to switch sides now. We've got 30 seconds in, starting now. So again, from the ground up, we're in a kneeling position. We've got anteversion of the pelvis. We are retracting the shoulder blades. The chin is tucked in. We got contralateral flexion of the cervical spine by bending away, ipsilateral rotation by looking toward the side we're stretching. And then at the glenohumeral joint, we are going into extension, lateral rotation, and we're inducing an adduction, abduction, by pulling the arm across as much as possible. And we're going to pause. A couple other things that you could do: maximum extension of elbow and wrist, maximum external rotation. That's going to get a little bit more myofascial tension on the anterior aspect of the shoulder. But we've got 30 seconds starting now. This one, when you do the maximum extension of the elbow, if you have really tight biceps, especially after today's workout, you will be feeling it in the biceps, even though it's an anterior deltoid stretch. And now we're going to go to the other side, 30 seconds starting now. So really try and pull that arm across toward the midline as much as you can to get that abduction. Maximum lateral rotation of the shoulder. Really try and squeeze those shoulder blades together. If you can squeeze the shoulder blades together, you're going to get an extra intense stretch. And come out of it. We've got one more on each side. So we've got 30 seconds starting now. So imagine that you are pushing your chest up. So the manubrium, the bone at the top of the sternum, right in between the clavicle, that you want to try and push that out and away from you. And since I mentioned a few skeletal structures, real quick anatomy lesson. We have the clavicle or the collarbone. The manubrium sits on top of the sternum, and then at the bottom we have the xiphoid process. That is that little bump right at the bottom of the chest bone. But we've got 30 seconds, one more, starting now. You guys should know this by now. Actually, I'm not going to tell you. Write it down in the comments if you know it. How many sets and for how long do we do the myofascial stretching? And for how many sets, what's the protocol for the PNF stretching? Because we're going to do some PNF stretching after this one. If you know it, comment it down below. First person to get it right gets, I don't know what you get. I'm going to have to come up with something. Okay. Okay, so that concludes the myofascial stretching exercise for the anterior deltoid. The second stretch is going to be for the biceps brachii. For the biceps brachii, we are specifically going to be targeting the long head of the biceps brachii for this particular stretch, and this is going to be a PNF stretching exercise for the long head of the biceps brachii. Quick anatomy before we get into the stretch itself. The biceps brachii is responsible for the long head is responsible for shoulder flexion because it crosses the shoulder anteriorly. It's also responsible for elbow flexion and supination of the forearm. So we would want to do everything in the opposite. We're going to go into extension of the shoulder. We are going to go into extension of the elbow, and we are going to go into pronation of the forearm. So we're doing a combination of extension, extension, pronation. Now, for this one, I'm going to be using a strength band. If you don't have a strength band, you could use a yoga strap. If you don't have a yoga strap, then you could just use something like some type of column to do the assistance on. But for myself, I love the stretch band just because I find that you get a really nice intense stretch with it. But what you would want to do for this one right over here is we are going to fish our palm over the strength band. And then what I'm going to do from here is, because I want to get into as much elbow extension and shoulder extension as possible, I want my shoulder right in front of the strength band. So the posterior deltoid should be in line with the strength band. Then from this position right over here, what I would want to do is, because it is responsible for supination at the forearm, I want to go into pronation. So my palm is facing away from me. And then once I feel like I've got a good stretch, I'm just going to hinge back a little bit. That way I could get an even better stretch. And what I would do to engage the muscle, for 6 seconds, I'm going to bring my arm forward. I'm going to try and flex my elbow, and I'm going to turn my palm forward. So I'm going into supination. So imagine that you're trying to do a curl and you're just stuck. You can't do it. Hold that for 6 seconds. After 6 seconds, relax, go back into extension, and then we're going to get a little bit lower. So by getting a little bit lower, we're going to be able to get even more extension of the wrist. Or sorry, not the wrist, of the glenohumeral joint. And now same thing. We are going to go into flexion, flexion, supination. We're going to hold that for 6 seconds. And relax. Extension, extension, pronation. Lean forward, get that chest up so we can get even more extension of the glenohumeral joint. And one more time. We're going to go into flexion, flexion, supination, bring that palm forward. And relax. Get nice and tall. So stick that chest out. That way we can get as much extension as possible in the glenohumeral joint. We're going to, on this final pass, we're going to hold it for 20 seconds. And if you want, you could even try and go even more into extension. You've got about 5 seconds left. And relax. All right, that feels great after that arm workout. Next, we're going to do the other side. So we're going to do the exact same thing. We are going to fish our hand over top, give a nice little pinch on the strength band over there. Then we want to turn away so that our posterior deltoid is in line with the strength band. We want to go again into extension of the elbow, extension of the shoulder, and we are going to go into pronation of the forearm. So our palm is facing behind us. Now what we're going to do for 6 seconds, we are going to go into flexion, flexion, supination. So flexion at the shoulder, flexion at the elbow, and then supination at the forearm. After 6 seconds, exhale. Get deeper into it. If you want to get even deeper, go into a lunge. That way you can get deeper into extension. After 10 seconds, flexion at the shoulder, flexion at the elbow, supination at the forearm. Exhale, get deeper into it. If you want, really stick that chest up. By sticking that chest up, we're going to get even more into extension of the glenohumeral joint. And we've got one final pass. We're going to go flexion of the shoulder, flexion of the elbow, supination of the forearm. So imagine you're trying to do a behind the back biceps curl. And relax. So we're going to hinge forward, really stick that chest out. Now I'm getting a lot of extension in there. Try and keep it as much as keep that shoulder blade retracted. That'll get even more myofascial tension on the anterior aspect of the glenohumeral joint. This final pass, we're holding it for 20 seconds. And relax. Oh, that was a much needed bicep stretch. All right. That was the PNF stretching exercise for the long head of the biceps brachii. The third and final stretch is going to be a PNF stretching exercise for the long head of the triceps brachii. The long head of the triceps brachii, if you recall, crosses the shoulder, so it's responsible for shoulder extension. So to get maximum stretch, we are going to go into maximum flexion. And because it also is responsible for elbow extension, we're going to go into elbow flexion. The way we're going to do that is we're just going to raise our arm up, put our hand over our back, and because we are doing the long head of the triceps brachii group, we just want a neutral hand position. We're not going into supination, we're not going into pronation, just neutral. As with the other exercise, we're going to be using the strength band. So what we would do for the strength band is we want to get into a bit of a squat position. And you are going to first start by placing the band behind your back, and then you're just going to stand up. From this position, once you get a nice stretch going, you want to do an elbow extension. So imagine you're trying to do a tricep extension. Just press up and then bring your shoulder down. Try and go into flexion a little bit of the shoulder. And exhale, relax. And just walk forward a little bit so you could get even more flexion of the shoulder. After 10 seconds, elbow extension. And really try and bring the arm forward too. That way we could also get a little bit of shoulder flexion. After 6 seconds, relax. Walk forward even more and get a nice deep stretch. And we've got one more. Elbow extension. Bring that arm forward a little bit. After 6 seconds, exhale, relax. And walk forward. Oh, that's really intense. Right over here. You should be feeling it all in the front of the, well, technically this is the back of the shoulder, but it looks like the front from where you guys are looking. And I think we've got about 5 seconds left because we got 20 on this last attempt. All right. Oh, that was intense. We're going to be doing the left side now. So, or the right side if you guys did the left. I don't know which side you guys did. But we're going to do the exact same thing. And what I'll do for this one over here, this is actually going to be a little bit tricky if I have my back to the camera because these crash pads are in the way. But pretty much the same thing. I don't know if you guys, how good you guys are able to see, but we're going to step forward a little bit. And we are going to just hold that for, we're going to engage. So we're going to do a tricep extension. Hold for 6 seconds. And exhale, relax. Try and get deeper into it. Really get that shoulder into as much flexion as possible. You could even hinge forward a little bit to induce a little bit more elbow flexion. Extend that elbow. After 6 seconds, exhale, relax. Oh, get nice and deep into it. Now we've got one more. Push for 6 seconds, hold it. Hold it for 6 seconds. And exhale, relax. Oh, That is intense. So today I learned that I could do this stretch with my back facing the camera, and this crash pad is actually a great modification to the stretch. So yay me. And that was about 20 seconds. Okay, there we go. And that concludes the stretching portion of the workout. And that is the end of day 9 to 80 days to your dream body course. If you guys have any questions, drop them down below. Let me know what questions you have. And let me know up until this point, what's been your favorite food? What's been your favorite exercise, your favorite workout, your favorite stretch? Drop it down below, but I will see you guys tomorrow. Thanks for sticking around until the end of the video. Be sure to like, share, and leave a comment as it'll help the algorithm. And if you enjoyed the content, show your support by subscribing to the channel by clicking on the icon in the bottom right corner. And if you really want to show your support, then consider becoming a member by clicking on the icon in the bottom left corner. These new high quality videos aren't cheap to edit, and the $5 membership will really help with the video editing budget. You'll also get access to a ton of exclusive perks like early access to videos and this program design lecture playlist in the top right-hand corner. And if you want to learn how to do a one-armed pull-up, then check out the playlist on the top left corner.